Hey guys, Sko here, and we are going to be looking at the Monk Talents, Artifact Points, and Stat Priority for a Brewmaster Monk in a raiding environment, so the Emerald Nightmare. I must give you guys a disclaimer, Monk is probably one of the least played, if not my least played tank class on the actual Legion Beta and Alpha, so a lot of the pointers here will be from just Monk, who I've discussed this with. So if we just jump straight into the talents, guys, on the first line, you want to pick Eye of the Tiger. The second line, you want to pick Tiger's Lust. Decision here for Tiger's Lust is that you've already got enough mobility through the rolls. You don't need an extra roll. You don't need the torpedo. Tiger's Lust lets you break roots and stairs. It also lets you cast on a friendly target or friendly raid member to give them a movement speed increase if you don't need it yourself. On the third talent line, you've got a choice between Blackhawk's Brew, which you can drink to regain all charges of Iron Skin and Purifying Brew and energy. Or you've got Light Brewing, which reduces the cooldown of Iron Skin Brew and Purifying Brew by 3 seconds and increases the maximum charges by 1. It's basically a toss-up between these two talents, but the standard build is Light Brewing. It's up to you guys here, but Light Brewing obviously being a passive, Blackhawk's Brew being an actual spell cast. It's really up to you guys which one you prefer. Light Brewing is, in my opinion, the better pick here. Go into the fourth line. By default, you take Leg Sweep, but none of these are particularly useful in raiding. Summon Blackhawk statue only has very particular uses in raiding. Ring of Peace is more of an annoyance rather than anything else. So by default, you take Leg Sweep, but neither of these abilities on this line see much action when it comes to actual raiding or tanking bosses. Like I said, Summon Blackhawk statue has some use, but it's very situational. So by default, you would just sit with Leg Sweep. This line, again, you actually have a lot of choices. Healing Elixir is the standard choice. You know, you heal for 15% of your maximum health and automatically triggers if you drop below 35% health. But either of the other two options are also viable. Diffuse Magic, obviously, for magic damage, and Dampen Harm, just to give yourself another cooldown. So either of these options are viable. By default and by standard, guys, Healing Elixir is the way to go. But again, it's up to you. We go to the second last talent. Special Delivery is the best pick here. There is use of Rushing Jade Wind in certain situations. For example, you only have a percentage chance to toss this keg high into the air. So if you want some reliable AoE, then you could always choose Rushing Jade Wind. This is particularly good in certain fights where you need to pick up AoE ads, for example. You want something reliable. A pre-patch example of this could be Hellfire Citadel, the very first boss. Hellfire Assault, obviously you want something reliable to pick up ads fast, so Rushing Jade would be picked over Special Delivery. But in general, when tanking bosses, Special Delivery is the pick. It's a higher DPS talent. So finally, we move down to the bottom line, and the bottom line pick here, the standout pick, is Blackout Combo. Now this does a lot of different things, and it definitely requires you to monitor it quite actively. The Blackout Combo alone, while being the strongest talent on this line, it also makes Monk probably one of the harder tanks to play, but it gives you a lot of possibilities. You can increase your damage, you can reduce the cooldowns on your brews, so you can increase your survivability, you can pause stagger, you know, there's a lot of things you can do here, guys, but like I said, you have to actively monitor this to make the best use out of it, so the skill cap on the Monk tank definitely goes up a little bit. There is other talents you can take here, 2 passive talents instead, so if you want to play Monk a little bit easier, you can choose these. But if we're talking about pushing Monk to the absolute limit, then Blackout Combo is by far your best talent pick on this line. So we've looked at the talents, guys. Let's look at the artifact points. The artifact points is an interesting one with the Monk, a very interesting one actually. So if we grab the first talent, the Exploding Keg, the artifact talents for the Monk, by the way, guys, are actually pretty strong. It's a bit of a strange one because the gold talents themselves are not exactly great. So Fortification, like the 25% dodge for 21 seconds after you activate Fortifying Brew, which has originally a 7-minute cooldown. Obviously, you reduce that with brews when you use like Iron Skin Brew or you know, just any kind of brew. So that brings the cooldown closer down to like 2-3 minutes, but still activating Fortifying Brew grants you 25-second dodge for 21 seconds, 25 dodge even. It's not necessarily something you need. You're already very strong when you already have activated Fortifying Brew. So is that extra 25% dodge for 21 seconds gonna be huge? Not really. The same goes for Brew Stash Whenever you activate a brew, you grant 10% dodge 1.5 seconds. It's not terrible, but it's at the same time, it's not exactly game breaking. It's not huge. And finally, we have Dragonfire Brew, which is potentially the worst of the three golden artifact traits. After using Breath of Fire, you breathe fire 2 additional times, each dealing 70% of fire damage. So again, this is maybe slightly better for dungeons than it is for raiding, because, you know, Breath of Fire is obviously an AoE cast. So, you know, you do AoE damage another twice, but at the same time, that damage is quite low. And when we're talking about an actual raid environment, where you're mostly just tanking the boss, or maybe the boss and one ad, this talent is probably the worst of the 3 golden talents. So in general, guys, the monk does not have very good golden talents, in my opinion. But at the same time, it does have strong minor talents, I guess you could say. So if we continue down the tree, we have, for example, Potent Kick increases the duration of Iron Skin Brew by 0.5 up to 1.5 seconds. That's great. We then have Hot Blooded, which causes the target to reduce its damage to you by 2% each stack. So that's 6% damage reduction, guys. Again, pretty strong. We go up here, we take Facepalm. So this reduces the cooldowns of brews by a further 1 second. And we have the small talent point here. Gift of the Ox summons an additional healing sphere when your health drops below 35%. Now, it's strange that they didn't make, for example, maybe something like this a golden talent, because this small talent here is obviously a good pickup. Increases your survivability quite a bit when you get that healing sphere. So we've picked the first point up. Now we want to go down further into the tree. The next pick we're going to do is Dark Side of the Moon. Now this goes well with Hot Blooded. Dark Side of the Moon, when you do a Black X Strike, also reduces the damage of the target's next auto attack against you by 2%, so you stack this up to 6. So you now have target's damage done to you reduced by 6% here due to Breath of Fire, and you also have the reduction on the auto attack damage by 6% as well as a result of Dark Side of the Moon. So again, like I said, the minor points are quite strong, in probably to make up for the lack of the golden points. So if we continue down here, you get an option to take the Smash, which increases the range of Keg Smash. This is a good talent for sure. It's not super strong, but it's definitely interesting. You know, there's plenty of situations where when you're moving around in raids that you can probably then get your Keg Smash off a little bit earlier. It's going to be great for picking up like ads or, you know, AoE ads and such. So it definitely has uses. It shouldn't be overlooked. So it's definitely a potential pickup. So if we pick this one up, we could then take Obsidian Fists. So we're going to work our way down towards the Brew Stash. Then we get Overflow, which increases the chance of the greatest healing sphere. I guess I should mention, guys, like I mentioned in each video, that it takes about 3 weeks right now, the Theory Crafting says, to get 20 artifact points on your weapon. So effectively, we have spent the 20 artifact points already. So that's rather interesting. So if we continue down and we take this, again, it's a question of whether you want to take the Brew Stash right now. The questions are if you want to take Smash, I guess you could say, over the Brew Stash. Depends which one you like better. Depends which one you think is going to offer you more inside raids. Just Wait's personal opinion was that he prefers Smash over Brew Stash. My personal opinion is maybe Brew Stash is a better pickup for raiding. But that's, yeah, it's completely, I guess you could say this is really up for debate. Either way, we'll stick with the original order, guys. We'll go for the Brew Stash later. So we're actually going to pick up this one now, increase your maximum health by 3%. Or are we? No, actually, sorry guys, we're not. We're actually going to pick up Brew Stash at this point. And then we are going to pick up the Healthy Appetite, the Swift as a Coursing River. This talent is another example of a talent that isn't that great in the Brewmaster tree. Activating Fortifying Brew, Purifying Brew, or Iron Skin Brew increase your movement speed by 6% for 15 seconds. Monk already has great mobility with roll and such. So I mean, movement speed is always a good thing, but is it that great? I mean, it's a small bonus, not really too impressive for being a one talent. So we pick that up, and that leaves us with the options of staggering around to move towards Fortification. It also gives us the option to move to Gifted Student. So we are going to go with the staggering around, and we're going to unlock the Fortification. We are then going to head to the Gifted Student, and we're actually going to lose our last point on Dragonfire Brew, guys. So our very last point is going to be spent in Dragonfire Brew. Let me know if you guys agree with this distribution of points for rating, or if you disagree, and let me know why. Like I said, Monk is probably my least played class in Legion, so I'm definitely interested to hear what you guys have got to say, your feedback. Let's look at the stat priority for Monk, guys. Stat priority for Monk is Haste. As always, guys, Haste is number 1. You're going to get energy regen off of this. You're going to be able to use your abilities more frequently. We have Crit as number 2, guys. Crit helps with Celestial Fortune. And Celestial Fortune, guys, that gives you a chance equal to critical strike chance to be healed for an additional 65% of the amount healed. So Crit is good for Monk because of that. So you have that chance of getting the 65% heal equal to your crit chance. So it's kind of similar to the Death Knight artifact ability in that regard. We have number 2, we have Crit, but at the same time at number 2, guys, I'm also going to put Mastery. Now, it's only going to be Mastery if, to explain this, guys, Mastery for a Brewmaster does the following. It gives you a percentage dodge after each hit that stacks. Why I'm putting Mastery in the same level of Crit here is if a Mastery increase is going to move you to the next breakpoint with the stacking dodge, then Mastery should be taking as priority over Crit. But if it's not, then I would recommend taking Crit ahead of Mastery. So what I mean by that is that assume you had this is obviously this is a high level example because you don't have this levels of dodge at the lower levels. But let's assume, for example, if you had 25% dodge through Mastery, this would stack to 100% over 4 attacks, okay? Which means the 5th attack equals guaranteed dodge. So basically what I mean by that is that the breakpoint on Mastery is effectively when one less attack brings you over the 100% dodge mark. So basically I'm saying Mastery breakpoint when you can reach the 100% dodge stack on one less attack. Now obviously this is easier to do at low levels because your Mastery is a lot lower percentage. So for example, if your Mastery is at 10%, it's going to take you 10 attacks to equals 10 attacks to gain 100%. But then if you increase your Mastery, by only 1%, guys, so it moves up to 11%, then you can basically get 9 attacks to gain 99%. You see what I mean? So basically what I'm saying is if Mastery can bring you up to a breakpoint with the stacking dodge, then I would recommend Mastery over Crit. But if it can't, then I would recommend Crit. So I guess you could also say that at relatively low levels, Mastery is stronger for a Brewmaster than Crit is. But at higher levels, when the breakpoints become harder to obtain or impossible to obtain, then Crit takes precedent over Mastery. 3, we have Crit equals Mastery, depending on which one you want to prioritize. And then finally, guys, we have Versatility at the last stat power. Again, like I said, guys, I'm interested to hear your feedback. Let me know what you think. As always, thanks for watching the video. I hope to see you in the next YouTube video. Otherwise, I will see you guys on stream. Yeah. Laters, guys.